Bubble Boys are back. It is a very cold Sunday afternoon here in the great state of Connecticut, but it's rather warm. At least the stove is 45 minutes away from me in Stores, also known as the basketball capital of the world. Shameless plug for my UConn Huskies. We'll get to them, but it was an awesome week in college basketball. We got plenty to talk about here. I'm Scott Sandulli. Anthony Chiu and Brendon Pricco with me today. Evan Rodriguez, more focused on the Seattle Seahawks than the greatest sport in the world. Not sure what kind of decision that is. But you got us, and we got a whole lot to get through right here, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know about the basketball capital of the world, but excited to get into the...
Says it on the court.
Okay, I'm going to put basketball capital of the world in my driveway then.
But not. Any arena they take over becomes the basketball capital of the world.
So it moves with them. So
yes.
Like if they're playing at the
it's
Footprint
like the
Center
Harlem
in
Globetrotters,
Phoenix,
except real basketball and dominating and the best team in the country.
Right, like, and so what about those years when they missed the tournament? Is it still like, does the capital move somewhere else, or is it just still there, just like
The
a
women's team
recession?
kept the prestige around.
Okay,
Anyway,
gotcha.
we'll get to the Huskies later. We'll backtrack a little bit, so we're going in order here, and we go back to, I think it was Tuesday night. Purdue went down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and in a game that was wildly entertaining, first off, in my opinion, and the fact that Alabama came in after beating St. John's kind of at their own game, rebounding with St. John's, I was not expecting that. I expect in Purdue a little bit of a similar style to the Johnnies, at least in how they play. But Purdue was able to pull it out, going on the road there at Coleman Coliseum, 87-80 final. The star of the night, who else but National Player of the Year candidate Braden Smith, floor general, 29 points, 6 boards, 4 assists. Didn't have the greatest shooting night, made his threes, and Trey Kaufman-Renn not playing at 100%. He gave him 19 and 15. I was looking at his offensive rebound category alone. Get enough from the other guys, and not enough coming from Latrell Wrightsell for Alabama. And I don't want to say a little bit to be desired from LeBaron Philon, but he wasn't making his three-pointers. Definitely a winnable game for Alabama that got away from them, and I think it was because of the toughness and experience factor. What do you guys think about Purdue-Alabama? Initial thoughts?
I mean, first of all, yeah, huge credit to Purdue for going on the road. It's not easy to win on the road, especially in an environment like Alabama. Those SC schools in this last, NIL decade where their basketball programs have been propped up, those environments have really carried over from football too. They have some of the best environments in the sport in hoops now too, and Alabama's no exception there. So a lot of credit to Purdue for being able to, be unfazed by it, and partially because they do, I think, play in the best home court environment in the country when they're at home in Mackey Arena. But yeah, having Trey Kaufman-Renn back, even though he wasn't 100%, him and Braden Smith together in the pick and roll are so good and so perfect together. Braden Smith's reads coming off those screens, excuse the cattail, whether he's gonna pull up in the mid range, he's gonna look to find his roll man, weak side help, he can kick it to the corner. He's so good at making the correct read, and that's kind of something that you really you can teach. The guy does this is how you respond, but to do it in the moment and to do it with split seconds of reaction, Braden Smith just does it better than anyone, and that's why they can beat anyone. That's why they're preseason number one, and sure, they struggled against Oakland, but they have Trey Kaufman-Renn, who is a key to this offense, and so I think they showed they still are worthy of a top dog title.
For sure. And TKR, he's an integral part of this team, and it took that game against Alabama for me to realize how much he means to this program over the last few years. After last year, I thought it was they were a great team last year, very good. Gave Houston all they could handle in the Sweet 16, but I thought they were missing the downhill presence that Zach Edey had given them. Trey Kaufman-Renn, good player, but I didn't think that he was this game changer, especially as a rebounder or defensively. And he proved me wrong 100%. He was able to run up and down the floor with those Alabama guards and kept that Purdue defense kind of stabilized. But Purdue, different team when TKR is on the floor, but the straw that stirs the drink, all Brendon Smith. It was not his best shooting night, but looked like a quarterback out there, the best quarterback Purdue has had since Drew Brees. Didn't get sucked into the Alabama tempo trap like St. John's, where they were running up and down the floor with them and turning it over. No, he was taking it up, slowing it down, running their stuff, getting good looks. I absolutely loved what I saw from the veteran presence of Brendon Smith, and they didn't lose a beat when he came off the floor for Omer Meyer either. He looked phenomenal, which was big with Fletcher Lawyer ran off the three-point line. So Brendon Smith, I think he was my National Player of the Year pick. This performance is exactly why.
Right. I agree. I think, like you guys mentioned already, like the addition of TKR was huge. Like he just opens everything up for them. Especially like you said, Brendon, they didn't look necessarily the greatest against Oakland in their first two games, but he was great. 19 points, 15 rebounds. And I think also, too, the rebounding margin was just huge. 52 rebounds to 28 rebounds. Oscar Clough was really good, too. 9 points and 11 rebounds. And like you said, Scott, they really got some great contributions off the bench from Mayer and Jacobson as well.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at the Alabama side of things, and what allowed them to play their game and beat St. John's was matching them on the glass, and that did not happen against Purdue. So, again, you're looking at a season where Alabama, they are so committed to their offense. I respect it. It is you take the first good shot you get, and it's either a three or it's at the rim. No mid-range jumpers, which, I mean, I think it can work, but to an extent. Like, you have to take what's given to you at some points. Mm-hmm. But when you're running up and down the floor like that and your first look is always a three-pointer, you got guys standing on the perimeter. And so they didn't crash the glass the way I thought they should. And when you're going up against a team like Purdue who's going to do that with a Clough, a Jacobson, a TKR, a Smith, like, you're going to get burned. And St. John's just got sucked into their trap of running with them that was almost a free-for-all underneath the basket. Purdue stayed down there, and I think that was the difference. And it's going to be a major, major key for Alabama's season is rebounding the basketball.
Right, I agree. And then, like you said, Scott, 44 of Alabama's 66 shots were three-pointers. So, yeah.
At what point is it many? At what point? Like, I understand the whole take the first good shot you got. I respect the system that they've run. It's gotten them to a Final Four and Elite Eight in the last 2 years and a 1 seed before that. But you have to have more downhill action so the defense respects the lane. Like, Philon and Wrightsell and Holloway are phenomenal. They're great. And they can get to the rim. They need to do it more often so that there is more space out there on defense. They respect coming down the lane a little bit. You have room for driving kicks to get better looks at three.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, that was part of Purdue's, game plan in the sense is, hey, they like to take threes and they're good at it, but the whole idea behind Alabama's offense is the most efficient baskets in the game are at the rim twos and threes when you're talking about points per possession. So if you can limit those, so if you can limit those at the rim twos, especially at the college level, it's different in the NBA when you're seeing all these NBA offenses look like Alabama, but those shooters are just a lot better. And especially at the college level, Bama's going to, even if they don't have a cold game, they're going to have some cold stretches, and those can just be demoralizing if you really seal the paint. You limit those at the rim efficient twos, and that's kind of what Purdue did, and they have the size to do it, and that's kind of, I think, where they went right.
And what Alabama needs to do to match that size, in my opinion, they have the guys to do it. I have been impressed with Taylor Bowen to start the year. Outside threat, very athletic. I thought he played very good defense on Oscar Clough. And I think Amari Allen, the 6'8" forward freshman, I think he can be a big part of what they do down there as well. And it is very, very hard to replace Grant Nelson and Cliff Amori. Very, very hard. But you have to find a way to have some sort of interior presence. And these are the two guys I think are capable of that. And you're going up against two veterans down there in TKR and Clough. Like, this might be the matchup they kind of needed early season to get some experience against a really good front court. Not to mention, not to discredit St. John's at all, because Zuby Ejiofor's the man, but still, like, they're getting these experiences against great physical teams, I think is going to pay off in the long run for Alabama. So I'm not a moral victories guy, but I don't think they have much to hang their head on with this loss to Purdue.
Yeah.
No, I don't. At the end of the day, it's a loss to Purdue. Not not losing a bye game. Not even losing against a lower end top 25 team. It's a measuring stick. Alabama has championship aspirations. So does Purdue. So now you kind of saw, if you're Alabama, you saw how you stack up there.
100%. That win for Purdue. I was a little concerned about the Oakland game, but they get Kaufman-Wren back and they look like Purdue. So it's hard to give a knock on either team. It was a very well-played game, very entertaining. Expecting to see both teams playing late into March. And another matchup this week that I think you could also see two teams playing late into March who played like it was a March game down the stretch. One of the more underrated rivalries in this sport, Arizona and UCLA out in Los Angeles in the Intuit Dome. I have many problems with that, but we will get to that later. But again, Arizona, two most impressive wins in the country. Neutral site over Florida and an away game at UCLA. They did not. Both offenses looked sloppy at times for a while and turned it up down the stretch. And my guy Jaden Bradley, again, just takes the torch for the Wildcats, and they get over the hump. I think UCLA left a lot to be desired from their bench, and they had a lot of trouble with Anthony Del Orso, who had 20 points, and the double bigs of Krivas and Tobe Awaka. Again, too much for UCLA to overcome. Any thoughts on Arizona-UCLA? A game, in my opinion, might have been the best of the week.
Yeah, it was a great game. As you mentioned, which was on campus. This is a very underrated rivalry. Actually a lot of people in the college basketball world don't. Old Pac-12 teams, there wasn't a huge focus on the Pac-12. So, love that they scheduled this game. But to me, the big difference here, especially in such a narrow contest, only a 4-point final score difference, was between for Arizona, Jaden Bradley, and then UCLA, Donovan Dent, the two very high-level guards, and Jaden Bradley just flat-out outplayed Dent. Particularly, he only scored 4 more points, 15 compared to Dent's 11, but was just extremely efficient. Jaden Bradley, he was 6 of 10 overall, and then 2 of 2 from the free throw line, and then Dent, all 2-pointers, was 5 of 16, and for a guard, especially he was 2 of 5 at the rim. Like UCLA needs him to step up, and he's transferring up a level, coming from New Mexico, so he's gonna take time, but that's kind of the key there for the Bruins, in my opinion. And we've seen them start slow this year. I was kind of worried they're gonna have more trouble with Arizona than they did. I thought they competed really well. I thought this might have been a double-digit Arizona win. Clearly, it wasn't. Bilodeau was great for them. Eric Daly Jr. Xavier Booker has found a nice spot for them after struggling at Michigan State, so they're going to be all right. But yeah, it was a great game, and what I was really watching was those two guards.
Yeah, for sure. Jaden Bradley won that battle, and Tyler Bilodeau was able to keep Koa Pete really from impacting the game, at least the way he did against Florida. But Mo Krivas, he was able to step up, kind of be that front court presence. And I mean, Anthony Del Orso, 20 points, like that's just massive. Like you can't understate that. That was big in a game where shots were not really falling. I don't want to say it was exactly sloppy, but it was not the track meet that I was expecting between these two teams. And Arizona, again, that's 2 games against high-level opponents that they've now closed out. And, I mean, is this the best defensive team Tommy Lloyd has had, at least to start, at Arizona so far? It certainly looks the part with the way that they held Donovan Dent down. They were able to keep Florida's guards from going crazy. If Arizona is playing this kind of defense with the way they run up and down the floor on offense, it could be trouble.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the defense. The biggest thing, and I'm looking at this advanced box score right now in Torvik. The biggest thing that stands out to me is the difference in shot attempts at the rim for each team. Arizona was 16 of 23 at the rim, and then 4 of 13 mid range, so an overall 20 of 36 from two. UCLA was 5 of 10 at the rim, 10 attempts at the rim, 31 2-point attempts from the mid range. Like, just excuse the cat in front. I can't even see you guys right now, but but that's the big difference is Arizona, made UCLA take uncomfortable shots. They held down the paint, and that's a credit to their defense, like Scott was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought I was really, like you said, Scott. Deloso was great. He had a couple of moments where, like, he just bailed the offense out.
Yep.
I thought too. You mentioned Toby Awaka and Krivas. I was really impressed because Awaka, they went to him down the stretch, other than Koa Pete, because, like you said, he was kind of getting held in check by Tyler Bildo and UCLA's bigs. But I was really impressed with just Arizona's bigs. I thought their experience really made a difference in this game, and just their cohesiveness, just like from coming back last year, Del Orso, Awaka, and Krivas, and even Jaden Bradley. Like you said, he was really the closer down the stretch. I thought that was the big difference for me.
Yep. Jaden Bradley is proving to be what Caleb Love was not, and that's just the guy you can give the ball to at the end of the game. You know he's not going to do something stupid. No offense, Caleb Love. You were electric. Thank you for ending Coach K's career, but Jaden Bradley might be one up on you in terms of closing games. Wow, but yeah, for me, closing thoughts there is Arizona. They look the part of the continuity as a team that UCLA doesn't really have, and the double bigs of Krivas and Awaka, like that's, first of all, that's physically terrifying because Awaka is a tank and Krivas is 7 feet tall. So UCLA's bigs, other than Bilodeau, I was interested to see what they were going to give us, and they met their match. And when you have a game where Donovan Dent shooting 5 of 16, I'm surprised they even were within 4.
Xavier Booker made some pretty nice threes.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for him. He kind of never found a place at Michigan State. I think just, UCLA is stretching him out more, playing more on the perimeter, giving him more of a chance to take those catch and shoot, spot up threes, pick and pops, and he's had a solid year so far. So that's good that he's found a nice landing spot.
I think the key for UCLA is just the depth factor is when a guy like Dent isn't going, who else is going to step up for you? And they had 4 guys come off the bench. They had a combined 3 points.
Yeah.
And 4 rebounds. Can't really have that against a team like Arizona who's going to run and tire you out eventually. And I think that's what we saw happen towards the end. UCLA was just a little bit gassed in terms of how Arizona was moving the ball up and down the court and playing really good defense. And I think that was ultimately the difference. And now that's 2 top 15-ish wins for Arizona in 10 days to start the year.
And then will they add another big win coming up against a team we're going to be talking about
Not
soon?
if I have anything to say about it. Boots will be on the ground. I just spent $100. I will be at Temple Pavilion Wednesday night. UConn in Arizona. And UConn's going into that, I don't know if you could say just as hot as Arizona, but on just as high of a note. They went into the Boston Garden last night, played a really, really good BYU team, had them pretty much underneath their shoe with a 20-point lead, but A.J. DeBanza woke up. The Huskies started to turn the ball over a little bit. The Cougars got back in it, but the Huskies did hold on. 86-84 win over the number 7 ranked BYU team. Wildly entertaining game, even though I started to have a heart attack towards the end of it. Caravan, Silas Demery, and Terrace Reed all combined for 63 points out of 3 guys over on the BYU side. Their big 3 gave them some big minutes too. Rob Wright, A.J. DeBanza, and Richie Saunders, 16, 25, and 17 respectfully. Keba Keita could have been the difference in this game. He only played 8 minutes, went out with an injury. But you could also say the same for UConn without Braylon Mullins. Huskies pulled out 86-84. I mean, I walked out of this game. We might see them again in Indianapolis. I have no doubt in my mind between both of these teams. UConn, the difference with them from last year so far is the defense. They didn't have last year, the Donovan Clingan that's just the deterrent in the lane. Terrace Reed looks the part of that right now. He's not Donovan Clingan defensively, but BYU did not want to go in the lane on him. They were taking so many threes early on that were not falling, and that's what allowed UConn to build that 20-point lead. And I was very impressed defensively with Jalen Stewart. He turned the water off on A.J. Dybantsa in the first half, but BYU started getting more switch action, and homecoming kid that starts 1 of 6 from the field, who's the number 1 recruit, dude woke up, and it was a treat to watch. A.J. Dybantsa is the truth. Even in the loss, I was very, very impressed with that kid's performance. 25 points, 21 of them in the second half, and 6 rebounds. Is this the best freshman in the country?
Darren Peterson and Cam Boozer have something to say about that.
And there's so
and there's a
many
lot.
freshmen.
There's a lot.
Yeah, it's tough because Peterson just got hurt, so I don't know. I was on the Peterson over Dybantsa train, and it's early, and so Peterson hasn't had anything. He hasn't really played bad at all. Yeah, he just got hurt, and then there's freshmen all around, So it's tough to say, but Dybantsa's definitely up there, and there's a reason that he's a top 3 lock in the NBA draft. He's up in that group of 3 with Peterson and Boozer, for a reason. My biggest thing about this game, though, by the way, is why didn't they change the court at all? It's a big game. It's a big game. I want it to feel like a big game. I don't want to be staring at the Celtics, even you know what I mean? That was the only. I told myself I'd let Scott talk about UConn and I'll complain about the court.
Good enough. I can respect that. But sticking with BYU for a little bit those were, Dan Hurley said it after the game, those were NBA level plays A.J. Dybantsa was making. Threes off the dribble, just flying around on defense, spin move, fade away. If he wasn't wearing Dybantsa on his back in a BYU jersey, I'm saying, I think we're looking at a young Kevin Durant out there. He was a flamethrower, man.
Yeah, his ability to make make shots, any kind of shots, it's really incredible. And at the end of the day, that's the most helpful thing you can do for a team on the basketball court is score. And there's certain things you just can't overlook. His fluidity, his ability, like you were saying, shots off the dribble, off the catch, at all 3 levels. There's people like to say this guy's a 3-level scorer, and it's hard to really, I think it gets overused, But Dybantsa, I think, is the epitome of a 3-level scorer. He can really do it everywhere.
I think for me with AJ, I was super impressed with just how in the second half how he just not just taking over, but just how he kind of just wanted the ball and just he wanted to will the team back. You mentioned, Scott, Jalen Stewart was on him a couple of times, and he had him defended pretty good in the first half, but in the second half I thought there were a couple of plays where AJ was Jalen Stewart looks physically just bigger than AJ, but AJ was just backing him down and just pushing him over. So I thought that was super impressive, just the mindset of him, because I thought the first couple of games I watched them play, really wasn't not too impressed with him, just because I thought I was expecting a little more. But this game, like you said, was really the coming out party of AJ Dybantsa.
100%. This is definitely. If I'm an NBA GM and I'm picking first in the draft, I'm taking A.J. Dybantsa, and I'm not thinking twice right now. But
wow.
I think where BYU kind of, I don't want to say they let him down, but their shortcoming was in that they made 29 field goals and assisted on 7 of them. UConn, this is a much different defensive team than last year. They looked a lot more like the national championship defense than the second round loss defense, and they were upping guys' faces on the perimeter, which they were doing with Keita on the floor before he got hurt, and it really disrupted BYU. And BYU wants to run the floor. UConn wants to slow it down. It's easier to slow a game down than it is to speed it up. And I think that affected Purdue early on to where they weren't really getting in the lane and the three-point shots were not falling early on. And especially for Richie Saunders, 0 for 7 from 3, I think that was the biggest – that was the big outcome change of the game for me. He did not have his shot, which is uncharacteristic for him. Like I said, it was all Dybantsa in the second half. And BYU, they didn't defend well really all night. And without Keita, they were just up on the perimeter a little too much. UConn was getting downhill way too much, way too easy, and they were making shots tough at the rim anyway. Like, I don't think Keita getting injured changed the outcome of this game. And but my main even as a UConn fan, my main takeaway is BYU is legit. AJ DeBanza might be the best player in the country, and I would not be surprised at all if the Cougars are in Indianapolis in April.
Yeah, and just to a quick note, since you were mentioning assists, BYU, as of now, and we're like 3-4 games in, they're 331st in the country in assist rate. Last year they were 34. So it's that's not very characteristic for Kevin Young so far, especially with his NBA background, the type of offense he runs. And so I'll be curious to see if they correct that or if that continues to be an issue, because you make a great point with that, Scott.
Yeah. His son's team has made a run to the finals off of ball movement. So it was not like a Kevin Young team, not like a BYU team, to kind of get shut out a little bit there in terms of how their offense was flowing. But when UConn is defending as well as they can, that's what they do. They force you into a little bit of iso ball. DeBanza was able to keep him in it, but he was not able to carry them over the hump, and that was hard to do. And that's because of UConn offensively. I mean, this is multiple years now that almost no one has been able to really stop these kind of sets that UConn's putting together. And what they were missing last year, what hurt that, was the lack of a true point guard, floor general, who sees the whole way, who can do a little bit of everything. Aiden Mahaney was not that. Silas Demery Jr. is. And that is fitting. Silas sounds like a Civil War name. That dude looked like a war general, a war hero out there last night. I'm going to get to him in depth a little bit further, but he's the floor general UConn didn't have last year. You're not going to replicate Tristan Newton, but SDJ was all over the floor. Tough and effort plays all night. Out-toughed Rob Wright for me, and 21 points. Got to the line 11 times. 5 boards, 7 dimes. Like, you won the MVP of the game. Like, Georgia, I don't know what you did to make this guy want to leave at the starting point guard of an SEC school, but thank you. Thank you so much. Silas Demery Jr. is a bucket, but have to put the spotlight on my man, Alex Karaban. The entire college basketball world owes Alex Karaban an apology. Last year, the one returning starter from the national championship team. A lot of people were expecting the All-American jump. Didn't necessarily happen. I don't think it was entirely his fault because of the makeup of the team, Liam McNeely getting hurt, but he became symbolic of what UConn was last year. He left a lot to be desired, and that's what the Huskies ended up being in a second-round NCAA tournament loss to the eventual national champions. But after all that disrespect that Karaban heard, came back. He has been automatic offensively so far this season. His three-point shot, I think he's making it at like a 55% clip. It is ridiculous. And stood tall on defense for a lot of the night. He had really good possessions against Abanza. You could see the difference on the floor from him as a leader. Just, he's so calm and demeanored, keeping his guys around him. Alex Karaban looks like the All-American that UConn and the world was thinking last year. He looks maybe like the best power forward in the country. And if he's playing like this, doing all this, 21 points on he made all 4 3-pointers he shot, and just playing really good stand-up defense. First round potential is back on the board for Alex Karaban. Whole college basketball world, stand up and apologize to number 11.
Wow.
Everyone said, homecoming game for AJ DeBanza. Southborough, Mass. The pride of Southborough, Mass. Alex Karaban. Come on now. UConn Huskies. This dude, what a soldier. What a win for him, for UConn. I think this could vault the Huskies into really, really big win against Arizona on Wednesday. We'll get to that a little bit later. But 2 UConn haters over here because I'm annoying. I get it. But thoughts on the Huskies from you guys?
I don't know what you're talking about. As a hater, I'm completely unbiased. And everything I say about college basketball. In all seriousness, I think I mean, you said a lot, but I'll go quick. I think UConn's legit. I this obviously shows it, but I believe that before. Just even watching, granted it was an exhibition game, but watching their exhibition with Michigan State, which I managed to watch without giving UConn plus any of my money. So, but they looked legit. They really stifled a Michigan State team who I thought was at the very least solid. And Dan Hurley is still Dan Hurley. Just because they didn't meet expectations last year, I think it's okay. You win the national championship in just 2 out of 3 years now. So I think Silas DeMary Jr. is incredible. I think Caravan is now approaching Perry Ellis territory with how long it's felt like he's been in college basketball.
Oh, that's disrespectful, man. That's disrespectful. Perry Ellis, did he even play in a Final Four? No, right? Caravan's got 2 rings. 2 rings, winner.
I'm just talking about with how long it's felt like he's been in college.
He might be unk, but he's unk with rings.
That's just I wasn't even trying to disrespect him. That's more of a compliment because he's been good for a long time. Guys who don't do anything till their junior year, you're not thinking, oh, they've been here forever. But guys, that really make an impact their entire career. You're like, man, this guy still has eligibility. And that's why I feel like entering this year, I saw Caravan on the roster. I'm like, oh, I thought he graduated. But yeah, so I think UConn's legit. I think there's a lot of great teams at the top, and they're one of them, and it's going to make for some exciting matchups down the road.
Caravan's back. Terrace Reed's back, and even though he's playing on 80%, he's had according to Hurley, he's had a hamstring, and he still had 21 points and 8 rebounds. That's a little terrifying at 80%. Jalen Stewart and Jaden Ross continue to thrive in their roles. Stewart, phenomenal on-ball defender. He was great with Devance early on in the game, and Jaden Ross's leap offensively has been a revelation. UConn looks as complete as they had been 2 years ago when they lost 3 games and 40 on their way to their second national championship in 3 years. And Alex Caravan's a huge part of that. Silas Demery's a huge part of that. Cannot wait to see them up against Arizona this week. Probably the 2 best playing teams in the country right now.
So how many games is UConn losing this year, Scott?
I couldn't tell you because there's always at least 2 Big East games that, especially at Seton Hall, that just get away from them for no reason. I don't know if Dan Hurley's ever won at Seton Hall, so something that court's cursed. But the rest of the Big East does not look that great, and we'll get to that in a minute. I have plenty of thoughts on that as the resident New Englander here. But any more thoughts on UConn BYU right here?
All right, Scott, my take on UConn, which I have been waiting to tell you. I think,
where are we going with this?
Like you already mentioned, Silas Demery. Before I get into that, Silas Demery was great. Jaden Ross, I've been super impressed with. He's coming off the bench. He just makes the hustle plays.
Yep.
Jalen Stewart, I've been really impressed with him. I think he's the glue of that starting lineup.
I agree.
My UConn take, Scott, is I think UConn has the most complete starting 5 in the country. I don't see any major glaring weaknesses. I think they round each other out really well. I think they're super complete.
All their games are very complementary of each other. I agree with that. They have someone that can do everything. So, I don't know. It's still too early, I think, to really go out on a limb like that for me, at least. But I mean, they've torched 3 opponents, and they were making BYU look silly for a lot of that game, and they let them back in only because Devance took BYU back in the game. But there were some careless turnovers there by UConn in the second half. If they had kept their concentration, their will, I think they could have won by 10 or 15. And there were some crazy threes that were falling for BYU late. But, I mean, who am I to say UConn may not have the best starting 5 in the country? It's early, but they look the part of a team that's won 2 of the last 3 national championships. Dan Hurley seemed pretty calm on the sideline, too, so that's how you know he likes what he sees. But we'll see. I am so excited for Wednesday. UConn, Arizona, in my opinion, the 2 teams playing the best early on this season. UConn has a top 10 win. Arizona with 2 top 15 wins. 2 very contrasting styles. Grab your popcorn. Wednesday night's going to be a barn burner.
You'll be in attendance.
I will be in attendance. I have work at 3 a.m. on Thursday morning. The game is at 7 o'clock Wednesday night. So,
Oof.
like, this is how you know. Like, this is how much I love college basketball and my UConn Huskies. I am fully prepared for about 90 minutes of sleep, but it will be worth it. Gamble Pavilion will be rocking. This is probably the biggest on-campus home out-of-conference game they've had in probably a handful of years. I'm trying to think. Maybe Florida in 2019 was the last time it was this big. So anytime they played someone huge out of conference, it's been either neutral or on the road. Yeah, it might be the biggest home non-conference game in a long time.
Yeah, that's gonna be a great one.
And
UConn is
Arizona's got
carrying the
both
Big
of their
East
big
right
wins are away from home.
now. I know.
So
Yeah.
we'll see. Two unstoppable forces meeting on, but next on our planner, they haven't lost yet, but they certainly don't look like the unstoppable force. The Michigan Wolverines struggle for a while with TCU after going to overtime with Wake Forest. What are our thoughts on this preseason top 10 team right here, guys?
I think.
First, Ant go.
Sorry.
Ant go.
I know. Wait, I'm just gonna lead into it, Brendon talking, because Brendon didn't want to talk about UConn, but this is a topic he can have a lot to talk about. So yeah, I'll let you go ahead.
Well, so first off, I need to say I'm done reacting to any high major games against lower mid majors, because we saw Michigan beat Oakland, an Oakland team who played Purdue tough by like a million and score 120 points, and we saw TCU lose to New Orleans, I believe.
Yeah.
And they met. So, on paper,
Yeah.
this looks like the game should unfold a certain way, but it's college basketball, so it didn't. Michigan was frankly lucky to escape with a win, just like they were lucky to escape Wake Forest. And this is a team where you look at their schedule, going into this year, and you're like, man, they might not lose till January, just based on this roster, based on the preseason expectations, and based on the scheduling. And now they've had trouble with back-to-back games, and a major part of that is, in my opinion, the biggest issue has been the turnovers. And this was an issue that they ran into last year, and it's not getting better this year. And part of that reason is Elliot Cadeau. You have a turnover issue last year, and then it's like, oh, now Elliot Cadeau had, I mean, even against Wake Forest, when he had like almost a triple-double, he had like 7 or 8 turnovers. Like, you cannot have that from your point guard. You need somebody who can calm things down, who can control the game, who you trust. No matter what output a guy gives you at that position, you can't trust a guy who it's routinely to go over 5 turnovers as a point guard. Like, that's
the
insane.
Caleb Love special right there.
Right, and it's
Fitting
just,
because Michigan didn't admit him.
Right, and so I think that's Michigan's biggest issue. They have a ton of talent. Mara is great, the UCLA transfer. We saw him plenty of times at UCLA, and Morris Johnson has been great. I think Anthony has some thoughts on their bigs. My biggest thing was the turnovers are an issue again until Dusty May figures out how to have an offense that doesn't turn the ball over like nearly a quarter of the time. They're going to struggle. I'll let Ant talk about the bigs.
Oh man, I can already hear the comments saying you don't know ball. But
Look at the result. The proof is in the pudding. Okay.
No, for sure. My thing on Michigan's bigs, and I think they're 2 really good players, Morris Johnson and Ade Mara, 2 really, really talented players. I've seen Ade Mara like in top 10 draft boards already so far, which I'm not sure if it's overreaction, but it's pretty early. But 2 really talented players, but I'm not really sure that's, in my opinion, if they really work together on the court, because just from what I've seen, I feel like it's been a really clunky fit. And I feel like that's been one of the reasons why they've struggled these past 2 games. I feel like Wake Forest and TCU, they've really been able to spread the floor and just get these 2 bigs that aren't the fastest, don't really move the best. They're able to get them out on the perimeter, which opens up things, which opens up 3-pointers, opens up things at the rim. So I think that's one of my red flags in terms of Michigan, and they don't even play them together. I think Dusty May, he recognizes that, because they'll have them starting the game, but then they'll pull like one of them right in like the first 2 minutes of the half. So I think that's something that's been alarming. And yeah, but Ade Mara has been kind of inconsistent. He saved the day against Wake Forest But then against TCU, he didn't look the greatest. 6 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 turnovers, and he didn't even play down the stretch when it was like a 1 and 2 point game against TCU. I do like their wings a lot, Namari Burnett, Trey McKinney, but like you said, Brandon, Elliot Cadeau, he was not the best against TCU. 3.6 turnovers, 1 for 6 from the field, but yeah. So two really interesting finishes against Wake Forest and TCU, but I think it's still early. They'll address these problems, but I'm really interested to see how they play when they get more competition, which won't be next week, but the week after that, in the Players Era tournament. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You got
and because all I was gonna say is they've turned the ball over 20% of the time this year so far. Good for 270th in the country, and they don't force turnovers either. That was all I was gonna say before I got
possessions
yelled
like
at by the
that
comments.
is a recipe for disaster, and they're going to
Mhm.
play two. They've got some high level games, but like they're not playing like the best of the best in terms of San Diego State and Auburn. Like two teams there, you can get a good gauge for what you got, but it's not the
Right.
kind of top echelon. They also got Villanova coming up on the schedule too before very rigorous Big Ten. But I don't know, I look at this team and I was a little worried about the depth outside of Axel Landeborg, and it's showing. I mean, they found a way to win these two games against Wake Forest and TCU, but you guys hit on a lot of it. There are a lot of holes, and there are a lot of red flags so far with the Wolverines.
Right. I mean, I agree. I think I don't know. Like, I trust Dusty Man. I think he's a good coach. They have a good offense, but defensively, I feel like it's been concerning.
Yeah, it's been concerning. I mean, it's tough because we don't have a good read on like how good Wake Forest is gonna end up being. But you give up 85 there. You know, they limited TCU kind of, but they are horrible at forcing turnovers on defense, and that's a big part of the game. And so pair that with their offense, and you're just giving up so many possessions. And I know I mentioned turnovers again, but that's their biggest issue on defense too. So got to figure it out there.
Could very well run into trouble there for Michigan, especially with Auburn after they looked awful against Bethune-Cookman. Hanging right with Houston right now. The team has not gone final. They're down 3 in the final minute, as I'm going to get this up on my monitor here because I am a little guilty of fantasy football watching today. But we'll
Of course.
try to touch on that once it's done. It's now a 1-point game. The Auburn Tigers are looking pretty good. How about that? But it's time for Scott's favorite segment, the resident Italian with spaghetti and beatballs. And if you
I do want
can't
to put out on
figure out what
Italian,
that
too.
means, you replace the M with the B. You capitalize the B and the E. What does the B and E stand for? God's favorite friggin' conference. And I've got a couple superlatives here I want to share with you. And we'll start with pineapple on pizza, also known as an abomination. And that is everyone in the conference not named UConn, St. John's, or Georgetown. The Big East is 1-8 against Power 4 opponents so far to start the year. The only win was UConn against BYU. Good Lord. Xavier, they have not looked the way that I thought they should. I thought Richard Pitino was a great hire as coach, but they got blasted at home by Santa Clara. Santa Clara! And all respect in the world to Herb Sendek, who's been there forever, but can't do that. It's fine losing to Iowa, but Creighton got emasculated against Gonzaga. Marquette, despite Chase Ross looking like a baller, Indiana blew him out of the water. Maryland was able to hold on and beat them without Pharrell Payne for most of that game. Providence, you've now let me down twice with the overtime loss to Virginia Tech and Colorado, really. UConn lost to Colorado last year, too, so I really can't say much. But DePaul is not kind of taking the leap that I thought that they could. I mean, we're 4 games in, but you lose by 13 at home to friggin' Buffalo. Things are not looking that great for my favorite conference. And but we'll look on the bright side. How about Georgetown? 4-0. Ed Cooley bringing these guys back from the dead. KJ Lewis, Arizona transfer, has been big for them. This was kind of what we saw, I think it was 2 years ago. It was a clear top three, UConn, Marquette, Creighton, and then a bunch of bubble teams. if we're looking at the same scenario, I mean, it might be bad news because none of those bubble teams got in 24. No St. John's, no Providence, no Seton Hall. And, I mean, all these teams have lost games, except for, I think it was Seton Hall still hasn't lost. Butler still hasn't lost. They look good as well. Michael Ajayi, Gonzaga transfer has been good for them. But I think the Big East is in a little bit of trouble. The glory days might be gone with Cam Jones, graduated from Marquette. No Ryan Kalkbrenner for Creighton. UConn keeps reloading because they're UConn. And St. John's back, they got that NIL money from that one singular booster. But, well, with the way this conference gets every year, it becomes rock fights in conference. Like, UConn has lost to Seton Hall every year for the last, 4 years. Seton Hall has not been good. So it could get a little interesting. But overall, disappointed by the Big East to start the year. And as I don't want to call myself a Creighton hater, but there's a UConn-Creighton rivalry. The Blue Jays got diced like the tomatoes for the red sauce against Gonzaga. But hey, I'll give them credit in that it could make a really good pasta eventually. They shot awful from 3 against the Zags, but they were still getting to the line. Jackson McAndrew and Owen Freeman got to get on the glass. Josh Dix, once he finds his shot, I trust McDermott to get them right. They looked really, really ugly against Gonzaga, but they've got 2 more get-right chances with Baylor and Iowa State, 2 very good opponents. Greg McDermott, right up there with me for most underrated coach in America. I think Creighton is. I'm not worried about them as much as I wish I was, because their fans are not fans of my favorite coach in the land. But anyway, for my cultured family out here, the real Italians who were raised on The Godfather as I was, the Luca Brasi of the week. And if you know The Godfather, you know what I mean. After a 20-point home loss to Santa Clara, Richard Pitino, and Xavier, you are sleeping with the fishes. You are not Michael Corleone, baby. You got a long way to go. And we're just going to leave that there. And we touched on a little earlier with the cooking class, the performance of the week, Silas Demery Jr., 21 points, 5 boards, 7 dimes, against Rob Wright, All-American potential at BYU. Chef's kiss. That might be the best point guard in the Big East right there. And the Huskies are 4-0 and kind of carrying the conference on their back because of him. And that has been the first edition of Spaghetti and Meatballs.
Wow.
I need to get a chef hat for next week.
I'm so honored to have been here for the experience, to experience that, in person. Well, not really in person, but live before the rest of the world gets to. That was incredible.
That was.
That might be the cooking class performance of the week. Anyway, we are now moving into. We're gonna have a little fun, play a couple of games. Team of the week draft. Evan Rodriguez was somehow able to select a team in here. I don't know why, but sure. No repeating teams. You pick the team that you thought had the most impressive week. We'll read it off for Evan. He chose Purdue. Why did he get the first pick? He's not here. But he says on his notes that they were doubted coming in, did not look good against Oakland, and Bama had a really good game with St. John's, but proved they're still Purdue. Braden Smith, great game. T. Carroll played great. Statement win, hostile environment on the road. Great analysis from our resident hooper, Evan Rodriguez. And that brings us to Brendon Pricco. Who's your team of the week?
My team of the week is Louisville. They're back under Pat Kelsey. You get a win against your rival in Kentucky, and this game wasn't even as close as the final score depicts. They really kind of dominated that game behind a talented freshman, another one of those talented freshmen, Mikal Brown. And so my team of the week is Louisville. I think they're back. I think they're my pick to win the AC. No, Duke is still there. They're a top 2 team in the ACC at the very least, and we'll have a chance to win that conference. And they're back. That's my team of the week.
Fair enough. Comes to me. I feel like I've made this is very clear. UConn Huskies, team of the week. I mean, played a heck of a game with BYU. The offense looked great the whole night. Alex Caravan, Silas Demery, Terrace Reed, just unstoppable out there. Defense had 20 good minutes, 15 shoddy minutes, 5 good minutes. Once they're able to put together the whole kill shot performance, just step on your throat like the 2014 was so good at, we could be looking at 3-4. That's a long way away, but UConn looks the part of UConn as Houston just beat Auburn, as that was not the greatest inbounds play there from the Tigers. 1-point win for Houston, and Auburn's second loss of the year. So, go Tigers. That's LSU. Anyway, I took UConn. Great win against BYU. We're going to see what they're made of again with Arizona on Wednesday.
All right, now to me, last pick, I went with Gonzaga. Took on 2 Power 5 opponents, went undefeated this week. I thought they looked really good in both games. First game of the week, defeated Creighton. It was a relatively close game at the half. It wasn't too crazy, but then second half, the Zags just completely dominated, eventually winning by 27. And the second game of the week, they took on ASU on the road. ASU hung in there, actually, and it was actually closer than the score would lead on, but Gonzaga was able to close it out. And anytime you go on the road, non-conference, playing a Power 5 opponent, that's always an impressive win. I went with Gonzaga. I feel like I've been pretty high on them this year. I really like Grant Mika and Braden Huff, that big man duo down low, and then you got Ty and Grant Foster and Adam Miller on the perimeter. I really like Gonzaga, and they're my team of the week.
One of my favorite phrases in college basketball is Zags got dudes, and looks like another year where they look pretty loaded personnel-wise. Mark Few, great coach. Zag's not going anywhere. We're going to see them in March, that's for sure. But we move on now to kind of another draft kind of style here, the sleepers draft. We're all going to draft 3 teams that were not ranked in the top 30 of this week's AP top 25 poll. It's week 2. And we'll track how these teams do all year using a point system, and the winner gets, I don't know, bragging rights, a cookie at the end of the year. But 1 point per win, 3 points per win versus ranked opponent, 5 points for each week in the top 25, 15 points for a conference championship, regular season, or tournament, 2 points for each quad 1 win, and 20 points for the Elite 8, 30 points to the Final Four, 50 points to win the national championship. I don't know. Ant's doing this math. I'm too stupid for it. Anyway, first pick, it looks like goes to Brendon. Why, I don't know. Teams excluded. It's a long list of 30 teams of who you'd expect. All the teams that are ranked, the teams that are not ranked that are on this list: NC State, San Diego State, Indiana, which very much made me mad, Oregon, and Vanderbilt. Those, along with the rest of the top 25, is off limits. Brendon, start it.
First of all, I was upset that Vanderbilt was excluded. That would have been my number 1. But I'll be short and sweet here to keep it rolling. I'm taking Iowa. I love Bennett Sturts.
Darn it!
Playing for his pops now at Iowa. I think he's a great coach. And they destroyed Xavier. I think they have a pretty light non-conference schedule. Chance for a big win against Ole Miss, but I think they're gonna do really well in Big Ten play. They're gonna win at home. I think they're gonna be fun. I think they're gonna be flirting with the top 25 all year. I'm taking Iowa.
All right, takes it to Anthony now.
All right, I'm going with a team that I feel like I've seen a lot just on college basketball Twitter. They've received a lot of praise so far. I'm taking St. Mary's. They've looked really good so far against some pretty good quality opponents, actually. North Texas, Ohio, Chattanooga, and St. Thomas. They've just blown them out completely. They're shooting 45% from 3 so far. They look really good. Randy Bennett's St. Mary's teams always find a way to be competitive. They should be around the top tier of the West Coast Conference with Gonzaga. And I'm going with St. Mary's.
As they always are, very consistent team over there. Up in, is it Moraga, California? I think that's the name of the town.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. All right. Evan's not here, so skip auto draft. Nah, he doesn't get an auto draft. He doesn't get anybody. Goes to me, and I will somewhat begrudgingly, just because I don't know why. I don't like their basketball program for whatever reason, but I'm all over them in football. Ole Miss Rebels, Malik Dia, AJ Storr. Those are 2 all SEC level players when they are at their best. Chris Beard is a very, very excellent coach. They've looked the part so far this year. I think they bring back enough from a team that went to the Sweet 16 last year and gave Michigan State all they could handle. I'm big on Ole Miss this year, and I think they could be just as dangerous as they were last season as a 6 seed that won multiple tournament games. So keep on going with me because we're on snake draft order here.
Wait, Scott,
And,
before you, Ole Miss has a Tyrese Halliburton clone. If you
Dude.
didn't see,
I saw that clip. I genuinely thought dude was in cosplay. What? That was scary, bro. It was scary. That was crazy. What was his name again? I'm blanking.
It's like, let me see. Oh my god, I'm gonna butcher it. It's like Elias Camerdine. Yeah, I think he's a French. He's French.
Only looks like Halliburton, that's for sure. Let's hope he has better injury luck than he does. But next up, my next pick. The conference looks down. Experienced coach, high major players. Hoya Sexa! Georgetown Bulldogs are back, baby! Come on. 2 Power 5 wins away at Maryland, home for Clemson. Those are 2 teams that were in the tournament last year, 2 5 seeds. Ed Cooley's been around the block. These guys do not turn the ball over on offense. KJ Lewis and Malik Mack is an elite guard duo. I think Vince Iwuchukwu has a chance to be one of the better bigs in the country when he plays to his full potential. Very athletic, shot blocker. I love what I've seen from the Georgetown Hoyas this year. And Big East is a little bit wide open behind UConn St. John's. I think they can do a lot of damage.
Yes, sir. And that'll bring it back to me. I'm going with a team that I think you're pretty high on, Scott. A team that has looked really good this season so far, undefeated, 4-0. Haven't really been tested too much yet, but I'm going with Virginia.
Oh. You see this rubber band I have right here? This is what I'm doing to you. Oh, I missed.
Yeah, but in terms of the scoring rubric, I think, in the ACC, they have some chances to knock off some ranked teams. You got Duke, Louisville, North Carolina, NC State. So they'll have those opportunities. Yeah, Ryan Odom's a great coach. I'm going with Virginia.
So it's back to me. I'm going with. Well, I need to get a ticket because I'm getting on the Must Bus. I'm taking USC. I think they're talented. I like Must. They're really well balanced. Torvik has them 22 overall, but their adjusted offensive efficiency and adjusted defensive efficiency both 25 on the year, just extremely as balanced as you can be. They also have a pretty favorable schedule when I'm looking at it. There's a solid chance that they enter a January 2nd showdown with Michigan, enter that game undefeated. Their only game they're favored to lose is an Oregon game leading up to that. So I wouldn't be surprised we see them start to get ranked here soon. Big brand, as well, which will help them out there. So I'm taking USC. And then we're only doing 3 teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So this next one's my last one. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you guys took some teams that were on my big board. So I'm going to be left here ending up with 3 Big Ten teams, which they might beat each other up. Just how the cookie crumbles. I'm taking Nebraska ball.
Basketball. Big win this past weekend.
Yeah, they look good so far. I like Hoiberg as a coach. They kind of fly under the radar. I think they're gonna surprise some people. I think they can be competing for a tournament spot. Yeah, I really wanted St. Mary's though, but that's how it works. I'll take Nebraska. So I got my 3 Big Ten teams. I'm a little bit worried that they all ended up. My Big Ten teams were the ones left, but that's fine.
Sure. I think at least for like that, they'll have chances to knock off some ranked opponents. So
they do, especially at home. Especially USC. Yeah, if you got like a Michigan, they got the Michigan schools I think coming out there at some point. Like they definitely do.
Yes, sir. My next team, I'm going, a team I'm going with a team that's currently 4-0. A team that has an electric offense so far. They've scored at least 90 points each of their 4 games so far. They looked a little bit iffy in the most recent game, but I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs. I feel like they have some really, really fun guard play. Blue Kane, Jeremiah Wilkinson. They have some really fun guard play. They fly up and down the court. I feel like they're a really exciting team in the SEC. They'll have some chances to knock off some ranked opponents, got some quad one win opportunities. Um, yes, looking at their adjusted efficiency offensively, ranked 37th in the country and 29th in adjusted efficiency defensively. So they've looked pretty good so far. We'll see how they do once they get tested, but I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs.
Don't hate it, but I think as the last pick, this team is not Mr. Irrelevant for me, considering the schedule that they have and with how electric they have looked, especially offensively early on. Give me the Mizzou Tigers. I have been very, very impressed with Dennis Gates' boys here early on. They played Howard, SEMO, and VMI before crushing Minnesota this week. That was their first Power 4 game, but they got a bunch of bye games still on the schedule, and they're lining up to see Kansas on a neutral floor, potentially without Darren Peterson. I think this is a team that has one loss at worst going into Christmas or the December 22nd game against Illinois, and their home court is great. Mark Mitchell, one of the best returners in college basketball, in my opinion, 6'9", 230. He's a beast down in the middle. Sebastian Mack's been really good guard play for them, and Anthony Robinson's looked pretty sharp for them as well, getting to the free throw line. I have had strong negative thoughts on Sean Phillips in the past, but hard to really nitpick at him so far. He looks really good in this offense. The schedule plays well for them. Great home court. I think Mizzou's going to do a lot of damage this year.
Scott, that was going to be my pick if I didn't pick Georgia, so I like the pick.
That is a good pick.
All right, so we end up Brendon with the Big Ten flavor, Iowa, USC, Nebraska. No one's winning the national championship out of that. The Big Ten doesn't know how to do that. Anthony, St. Mary's, Virginia, Georgia, Scott, Ole Miss, Georgetown, and Mizzou. And Evan, I don't know.
Yeah, what's Evan getting out of this?
Should we give him Cleveland State or somebody? We'll give him Mississippi Valley State.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. Yep. Shout out to Delta Devils.
That's right.
But we move on to we're going back into the windshield, seeing who we got in front of us this week. Champions Classic, Kentucky, Michigan State, Kansas, Duke. We'll start with the Spartans and the Cats. For me, a lot of dudes on both perimeters, but and Michigan State, they're going to have the edge down low without Jaden Quaintance, but they have not shot it well from the floor this year, and Kentucky has been lights out in terms of that, even in the loss to Louisville. Brendon, you're a resident Michigan State guy. You grew up in the area. You know the team. What do you think they need to do to win this game?
I think this matchup is super interesting because you briefly just touched on it, but shooting, Michigan State has been horrible. At least, 3-point shooting. I think this could be one of Izzo's worst 3-point shooting teams, maybe the worst. And when he's been there for almost 30 years, that's saying a lot. And then, of course, on the other side, you have Kentucky, who under Mark Pope, he has an NBA style offense, just like he had at BYU. They want to get up shots, they want to get up threes. But Michigan State defends the 3-point line well. So that's going to be, I think, the real stylistic battle here. I like Michigan State's, athleticism and size to match up okay with Kentucky. I don't think they're going to be, they're not going to be outmanned there, especially with Quaintance still out. If I'm making a pick here, it's tough. I think it's going to be a close game. Last time these two teams met in the Champions Classic, I believe Michigan State won. And then it could be funny if Michigan State goes, beating Calipari, which I'm sure Kentucky fans were happy to see, to now if they beat Kentucky, which I'm sure Arkansas fans would be happy to see. So I think they're just going to make both of those fan bases independently happy and upset at the same time. Give me Michigan State. I think that they have a great group, the great pieces. I love Fears to lead them. He's going to have another 9-10 assist game. Cohen Carr is going to be the best athlete on the floor. They've unlocked Jackson Kohler and Carson Cooper, so I'm taking Michigan State.
I like the thought process there, and they were not the most talented team on the floor against Arkansas, and they still found a way. But I think that was a home game. We're on a neutral floor in this one. I worry about the Spartans' offensive consistency, and Kentucky, they've just shot it lights out so far. There's no reason to think that they're going to have trouble doing that for me this year in this game. I don't want to pick UK, but it feels a little reckless to say that they're going to lose this game, at least for me. So I think Kentucky in, I don't know, I'd say like a 82-74-ish kind of game. But yeah, I'm going Cats.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't really have too many thoughts. I didn't get a chance to watch that Kentucky game because ESPN and YouTube TV couldn't agree to a deal. But I don't know. I just like you guys said it for yourselves. I think this stylistically, this is a very intriguing game. Like you said, Brendan, Michigan State would just want to muck it up. Well, Kentucky, they run a very pro style, offense oriented play style. So that's really intriguing just to watch. But yeah, those are just my thoughts on the game.
Got a top 10 defense versus a top 10 offense. Now we get to see what happens.
Go to the other matchup on the Champions Classic floor, Kansas and Duke, which unfortunately does not have the shine it would have had 24 hours ago. Kansas star freshman Darren Peterson out indefinitely. I believe it was a hamstring issue. And I think this does not bode well for them against Duke. There's just, other than Badunga, you just don't know who you can really trust with the Jayhawks. I mean, it's pretty easy for me. I think the Blue Devils kind of walk over the Jayhawks a little bit here, sadly.
I think exactly the same. The biggest issue with Kansas going into the year was who else is going to score outside Darren Peterson. Now they don't have him. Give me Duke.
I agree. I think I don't. We're setting ourselves up for I don't know.
Do
Yeah,
it to us, Jayhawks. I'd love to see it. I'd love to.
But yeah, that's so tough. Peterson being out for what? For the immediate future. Yeah, immediate future. I don't know. That's so unfortunate. Like you said, Brandon, you mentioned in the last episode, who's gonna step up for them. Regarding Duke, I really like their team. They're super athletic and versatile from just what I've seen. I love Dame Sarr and Isaiah Evans. He's looked really good this season so far. Really shooting the lights out. And Duke, they can score the ball. They've had back-to-back games where they scored 100 points or more. I think Kansas could be in for a long night, especially if there's looking like there's no Darren Peterson. But I'm going with Duke.
Certainly a great opportunity for Melvin Council Trey White to step up without Darren Peterson, but I think it's just a little bit. It's too early in the season for them to be able to take that be able to take the baton there. I think Duke is able to focus in on Flory Badunga down low, and unless Kansas just shoots the lights out of the gym, I don't see it without Darren Peterson. So I think Duke gets a win here, and that will take us to the Windy City, Alabama and Illinois. This is an interesting one to me because you look, Alabama we've talked about, track meet every time they get on the floor. Illinois is capable of that, but they're big, whereas Alabama is small. How do those styles play out? How is this personnel? How is this going to determine the game?
Yeah, this interesting is exactly where my mind just went in terms of both of these teams have dudes and dudes who can score. It's so hard to, if I'm thinking about trying to pick who I think is going to win, it's so hard to pick that just because my takeaway when watching Illinois, when I talked about last time, is it felt like every guy on the floor could score, could take somebody off the dribble, so balanced. Then Alabama, you have Fine Line, Holloway at guards, Bull Bowen has been great. Like, there's just so many great scorers in this game. I think it's going to be a fun one. And I think, we're going to see how Alabama can handle the environment. It's in Chicago, so it's going to be Illinois heavy, and they have a pretty crazy fan base. Are we giving picks for this one yet, or?
Don't need to if you don't want to.
Don't need to. Yeah, I'll need to think about it because I know my pick is going to be this is going to be a tight game. I don't think any team really separates from the other. This is a very fun matchup.
Yeah, I agree too. I think like you already touched on it. Alabama can fly up and down the floor, and then like you even said, Brendan, like last episode, Illinois has so many guys you can go to. Boswell, Stojakovic, Mirkovic. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but there's so many guys who just can beat you. Even all the advanced metrics I feel like I've seen so far, Torvik has them third, which I feel like that's super high in terms of like where I've seen them compared to other people. Like you said, it's gonna be a really fun game. It's a really fun game overall.
100%, and I think it's just so interesting to me that both teams can really push the pace with the best of them, but Alabama does it with guards and Illinois does it with bigs. And no one does track meets better than Alabama. They're going to want to speed those Illinois bigs up and beat them down the floor. And the key is going to be on the glass. Alabama rebounded against St. John's and won. They didn't against Purdue and lost. Aiden Sherrill and Taylor Bowen have this game on their shoulders for me. They've been tested at a high level twice now. I think they're going to be ready. Alabama guards, they've shown they can do it against St. John's, and against Purdue they can do their thing. I think Illinois is able to give them trouble, but as long as Alabama, as I mentioned earlier on in this show, if they're getting downhill and getting to the rim, run the fast break, beating these bigs down the floor, I think they can really do their thing, hit the glass, and I think Alabama's going to pull this win out. I'll make my pick there for sure. I think the Crimson Tide find a way, and in another kind of Jekyll and Hyde Alabama performance, which they're very good at. But now, our last thoughts of the night, game of the week, maybe of the season.
Wow.
I will be there, loud, proud, might get thrown out. An early trip to Ted's Bar down the street. But UConn Huskies, Arizona Wildcats, the two teams that have started the season probably on the best notes. Arizona, 2 top 15 wins against Florida and against UCLA. UConn with a top 10 win against BYU. Lead us off, guys.
This game, like you mentioned, game of the week, and I don't know if I want to say maybe game of the year, but two incredible teams. Arizona already has, both teams have high quality wins. They've been tested. It's interesting. I'm interested to see how Jaden Bradley performs, how Koa Pete for Arizona, and then UConn, like you both touched on earlier, maybe the best starting five in America, just so balanced. And then it's in stores. It's in. I'm not comfortable calling it the basketball capital of America, but it's in a place with some crazy.
It's not the basketball capital of America. It's the basketball capital of the world.
Oh, of the world,
yeah.
right?
Get it right.
Yeah, hand up. That's on me, coach. But I think UConn wins by double digits. I think UConn. I think UConn's legit. They impressed me against BYU. I think they're too balanced. I don't think Arizona has the depth and the variety of scoring options to really hang around. Del Orso could step up. I don't know if Koa Pete's gonna. I think Koa Pete's gonna be held in check, and Bradley can give him some. But I don't know if they're gonna be able to have enough of an offense to really match UConn and how talented they are 1 through 5.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this is going to be a very, very fun game. I think, like you said, that being in stores is very concerning if I were an Arizona fan. But I'm not going to make a pick. But but yeah, I would probably lean UConn just like we said. I think their starting five is so balanced. I don't see any glaring. I don't know. I don't really see glaring weaknesses in this UConn team. Silas Demery was so good against BYU. He could keep Jaden Bradley in check if things get close. He has the physicality to match him. Like you said, Brendon, I think they will keep Koa Pete in check. Yeah, but this should be a really fun matchup. Two really good head coaches. Two really great programs. Yeah. Should be a fun environment.
First off, I'll give respect to Arizona coming across the country playing at UConn
Yeah.
in Gamble Pavilion. Hats off. A lot of respect to Tommy Lloyd and his program for doing that, giving us a real treat early on in the season. And looking at both these teams, I have been impressed with the defensive side of the ball. This is, in my opinion, has looked like the best defensive team of the Tommy Lloyd era at Arizona so far. They've got 2 great wins, partially off of their defense, definitely against UCLA, that will carry to Selection Sunday. And UConn's ball stoppers, they look more like the national champions than the second round exit. So in a matchup where defenses are looking great, it's whoever implements their offensive style and creates turnovers is going to have the edge. It's easier to slow a game down than it is to speed it up, especially at home. UConn, they move with methodical pace. Arizona up and down the floor, track meet. UConn kept a similar moving team like that in BYU from moving the ball and forcing turnovers. BYU only had 7 assisted field goals the entire game. I don't see why UConn would have trouble implementing the same kind of defense against Arizona here. especially when Arizona had stretches of carelessness with the ball against UCLA. As long as UConn takes care of the ball themselves, they had 16 turnovers against BYU, which let them back into the game. I think they're going to be okay here. Arizona's double big lineups could give UConn trouble, but Alex Karaban, I think, can really play some great defense, keep Koa P from impacting this game offensively like he did against Florida. I don't know if Mo Krivas and Tobe Awaka are going to provide enough offensively to get Arizona over the hump. I like UConn's guards, Solo Ball and Silas Demery, just a little bit better, I think, than Jaden Bradley. I have not been convinced by Braden Burries yet. But while I've been impressed with Arizona's toughness and their grit and their defense so far. Cross-country game, UConn with a chip on their shoulder off a momentum win. I don't see the Huskies losing this game. I think, there's a little bit of family in there. Dan Hurley, brother Bobby over at Arizona State. He's had his troubles with Arizona over the years. I think Dan Hurley gets one for his big bro here, and UConn may vault themselves into number one in the country. And this is going to be a great game, phenomenal game. And someone is going to make a play that makes the difference. I'll go out on a limb and say Jalen Stewart steal or a dunk or a three-son. He has been UConn's unsung hero so far, and with his defense, I think he makes a play late here. He's kind of the joker in the deck without Braylon Mullins. Puts them over the top. I like UConn, a very, very good game at Gamble Pavilion.
Yes, sir. It should be fun.
All right. We will leave it at that for today. Gee, we went hour 16 minutes. We let it fly today. Oh, we had a bit of a lazy weekend because I couldn't grit out a late night on, Friday? Something like that?
Yeah,
I was tired, right, man? And I was
tired. It was late. It was like 2 a.m. Sky.
I was
okay.
yeah.
I was tired of watching Gonzaga kind of run circles around Arizona State towards the end of the first half. But that's a story for another time. This has been On the Bubble. Enjoy your college basketball week.
Yes, sir. One more week till feast week.
We're eating good.